It's showtime.
Now, I have to ask you guys, what exactly is it that, you guys have been exposed to? What is it that you're exposing yourself to, on a daily basis? What have you been exposed to?
You can always blame it on the parents. You can always blame it on the upbringing. But there's things that you do on a daily basis as well that conditions your mind for success.
We want to thank y'all for tuning in for another segment of the James Airy Show. I'm your host, James Airy.
And I'm Anderson.
And we want to thank you guys again for tuning in right here, right now on the James Airy Show.
We have a great topic today, and it's going to go deep because the conversation is a follow-up from the last one. If you haven't watched it, please go and check it out. You got it in you. Before all these people who tuned in and send us some support, we want to thank you all because it keeps us going, understanding how those conversations affect your lives on a daily basis. It warms our heart.
Yes, sincerely. We want to thank each and every last one of you guys for subscribing, just for tuning in, just for sharing your feedback, in the comment section. We're aggressively on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and we're going to need each and every last one of you guys to assist us in getting to those 1,000 subscribers. For those of you guys who've already subscribed, we want to thank you. Thank you
so much. We might as well just get right into it. In the last video, we spoke about greatness within. We spoke about your untapped potential. But we realized that, okay, now it's imperative to understand what is stopping you from realizing greatness within, from tapping into those capacities. And we included a little snippet of a Les Brown video where he said it perfectly. He says, sometimes you cannot say that you can do it, but you can always say that it's possible.
Let's say that together, please. It's possible. See, sometimes we can't say, I can do that. But what we can say, that it's possible.
That's right.
So it's a mindset, it's a conditioning. Understanding how to change your mind and change your mentality to realize your possibilities instead of your limitations, it takes a lot of work. From that question that we asked, we understood that the first thing you have to really look at is the things you expose yourself to, the things you've been exposed to unconsciously, and the things you expose yourself to on a daily basis consciously. So that is what we're really going to talk about, how what you've been exposed to affect your thinking. And there's a great short story to illustrate that we want to share with you before we get deeper.
You know what? I think now actually would be a really, really good time to go ahead and bring that short read up. Man, I was, kind of just like doing some reading earlier today, like I typically like to do. And one of the things I ran across was a little short story called The Elephant and the Rope. It's about a man. He was, passing through the elephants, and, he suddenly stopped and he was confused by, the fact that, these huge creatures were being held by only a small little rope that was tied to the front of their leg. There were no chains, no cages, no concrete walls. It was obvious that the elephants could break through that tiny rope at any given time. They could break away from their bonds, but for some reason they did not. So, after the guy walking through the elephant field, he saw a trainer nearby, and he asked the trainer, why are these animals are just standing there, and how are you able to get them to keep standing there without them even attempting to get away? Well, the trainer said, well, when they were very young and much smaller, we used the same size rope to tie them. And at that age, it was enough rope to hold them in place. Now, as they grew up, they are conditioned, because as a child, they were confined, or they had this rope around their ankles for such a long time. As they grew up, they were conditioned to believe that they cannot break away. They felt like the rope could still hold them, so they never tried to break free. So the man walking through the field, he was amazed. He said these animals could break free at any given time, from their bonds, but because they believed that they couldn't, they were stuck right where they are. Now we're talking about an elephant that's so many tons being held in bondage and strapped by a rope, but they've never decided to leave. My question for you guys today is, what bondage or what is stopping you from being successful or being great? What's stopping you?
What's stopping you from being the elephant that you really are?
What's stopping you from being great, seeing your greatness?
And so, as you understand, this is a great introduction to what we were just saying. It has to do with mind limitations and conditioning. So as you just asked that question, also to you who's following wherever you are, what is stopping you from seeing greatness within?
Well, most of the times, and I'm only going to speak for myself, most of the times, a lot of us, we don't see ourselves as being great. And again, that's something, of course, that's going to automatically start in the mind. Okay, you have to see yourself of being worthy of actually being great. That's one of the first things you have to do. If you don't see yourself as being great, then there's no way you're going to ever be able to get there. I'll give you another brief example. You have to see yourself being able to live in the house of your dreams. You have to see yourself being able to pursue the career that you have chosen. You have to see yourself actually walking in the shoes of the professional that you're trying to be, or the business owner that you're trying to be. You have to see yourself being able to do that.
But it's easier said than done, because as we pointed out, there's mind limitations. Your exposure, the things you've exposed yourself to and you've been exposed to, gives you a reference point. If for a kid growing in America, becoming a millionaire doesn't seem too far stretched. It seems reachable because you see millionaires all around you. But for someone coming from the slums of Africa, or he coming from regions of India or China, where they never seen somebody with a millionaire, who never seen somebody that successful, it's not that easy to tell them, hey, you got to see yourself as a millionaire. He has to expose himself to that. He has to see that, there's examples, I can actually do it. But if nobody actually showed him, or if they've never been in an environment that is conducive for that success, it's hard for them to actually see it, to see the possibilities that they can actually do it. Does it make sense?
Well, you know what? I have to kind of, disagree with you just for a little bit. Now, you say the exposure is what actually makes them actually be able to see themselves as being able to do it. I'm sorry? Am I correct?
I said part of it, because there's counter examples, but yes.
Well, I'll agree with you to a certain degree. I'll have to add to that is that even though you haven't been exposed to it, you still are going to need a high level of, resilience or determination for you to even do it. A lot of people have been exposed to a lot of things. I can go on and count countless of the amount of people that I know that were raised in mother and father is successful. Mother and father's done great things, have been around a lot of successful people their entire life, but that did not translate to them into being successful. For whatever reason, they missed the boat. When the lessons were being passed out, or when the lesson was being given, maybe they missed the class. I don't know. I don't know about you. When I was in school, I skipped the class or two. I'm gonna be honest with you. Okay, I did. Yeah. And the day when I skipped, every time it was almost as if I missed something very important. And so when you say the exposure, that does make a difference, 100%. I cannot deny that. I am agreeing with you. However, sometimes the exposure is not enough, because even with the exposure, you're going to need a high level of resilience and determination for you to still see yourself being able to do whatever it is that you desire to do.
Yeah. And there's actually a great Akan proverb. The Akan people is a tribe of West Africa, and they have a proverb that illustrates it very well. It says a tree branch can spend its whole life in the water, it'll never become a crocodile.
Right.
Or even though a spoon is within the soup, it'll never actually taste the soup. It means that sometimes you can be surrounded by greatness. And like you said, miss the boat. You can be surrounded with great knowledge and you never absorb it, because maybe you take it for granted. Maybe you're not, it doesn't resonate with you. But you pointed out something it's true that exposure has a lot to do with the way you think and the way you act. But there's also greatness within. Regardless of your environment, you do have that greatness within.
You got it in you.
You got it in you, and yes, link below. but you spoke about the fact that your environment sometimes can see potential that you don't see for yourself. But at the same time, you can have potential within yourself and never tap into it, regardless of the environment, regardless of the fact that you're surrounded by greatness. So even though that could be an excuse, especially for kids who don't have access to those success stories, even though that could be an excuse, it's not really an excuse, because you do have greatness within. You got it in you.
That's right. You're going to hear me referring back to Les Brown quite a bit over this particular segment. Les Brown said it himself. You have greatness within you because you got it in you. You have it in you. Now, I have to ask you guys, what exactly is it that, you guys have been exposed to? What is it that you're exposing yourself to, on a daily basis? What have you been exposed to?
You can always blame it on the parents. You can always blame it on the upbringing. But there's things that you do on a daily basis as well that conditions your mind for success. To share my own perspective, when I came from back home to this country, and I've seen the way things work here, when you get into an environment where you see how people can, actually achieve things, you see artists, you see creators, and you see all of that. For me, one of the things was actually learning from these people. I took a time to actually, first of all, sit down and absorb that, expose myself to those successful people, to producers, to artists, to musicians, see how they think, see how they proceed on a daily basis, learning from their daily routines. So that helped me get a beginning of a mindset of that anything you need to achieve, you can work on. Did exposing yourself to certain type of people kind of helped you develop that mentality?